Chapter 1. The Spark Before the Flame. Dr. Maxwell Max Gibbons sat in his cluttered solar observatory, sipping lukewarm coffee while glaring at his ancient, temperamental espresso machine. Outside, the desert heat shimmered on the horizon, but inside, the only heat he cared about came from the fiery tantrums of the sun.
"Just another day in the life of a star,"
Max muttered, tapping his monitor as solar flares danced across the screen.
"You burn, you tantrum, you occasionally vomit plasma. Same old, same old."
Then the anomaly appeared, a spike in solar activity unlike anything he'd seen. The readings pulsed erratically as though the sun itself was humming an otherworldly tune.
"That's news,"
Max said, adjusting his glasses. He pulled up the data stream and froze. Embedded in the solar waves was a pattern, almost like a message.
"Carter."
Max called over his shoulder. Carter Steele, Max's non-verbal assistant, stood at the edge of the room, hands neatly clasped behind his back. A young man with a serene presence, Carter moved quietly but was always attuned to Max's needs. He walked over, his sharp eyes flicking to the screen.
"Look at this,"
Max said, pointing to the data.
"Tell me I'm not losing it. That's not just random noise, right?"
Carter didn't respond. He simply tilted his head, studying the patterns with an intensity that unnerved Max. Hundreds of miles away, 8-year-old Alex sat cross-legged on his bedroom floor, crayons scattered around him. He was furiously sketching a sprawling landscape of rolling hills beneath a sky filled with twin stars. His mother paused in the doorway, a laundry basket in hand.
"Alex, what are you drawing?"
she asked softly. Alex didn't look up, his focus unbroken. On the page, small figures began to appear, standing atop the hill. His mother's heart sank as she realized what he was drawing. The hill. He'd drawn it before, always claiming it was a real place. She sighed and turned to leave, but stopped when she heard it. A whisper, faint but unmistakable. "They're coming." Her blood ran cold.
"Alex, did you just..."
Alex finally looked up, his eyes wide and luminous. He shook his head slowly, then pointed to the paper. "Them," he said, his voice barely audible. It was the first word he'd spoken in years. Back at the observatory, Max was pacing.
"I've seen weird solar data before, but this..."
He stopped mid-sentence, his gaze flicking to Carter. The young man was now seated at Max's desk, his hand resting on the console.
"Hey, Carter, you're not supposed to touch."
Max's words caught in his throat as Carter turned to face him, his eyes glowing faintly. Max stumbled back, a sudden pressure blooming in his head. Then he heard it, a clear, calm voice, but it wasn't coming from Carter's lips.
"It's coming. We need him."
Max froze.
What did you just say?"
Carter rose, the glow fading from his eyes. He pointed to the monitor, where the image of a dark looming sphere appeared, the dead star circling back into their solar system after 26,000 years. The equipment flickered, the room falling silent except for the hum of Carter's telepathic voice repeating in Max's mind. "We don't have much time." Max stood rooted to the spot, his mind racing. The dead star, the supposed partner of their sun, was real, and it was approaching fast. Somehow, Carter had known, and now Max realized. The solar flares, the signal, the children like Alex, it was all connected.
"What do we do?"
Max whispered. Carter's telepathic response came swiftly.
"Find them."
The lights in the observatory dimmed, and outside, the sky seemed to pulse in time with the flares. The countdown had begun.